The city was busy that afternoon. People moved fast, carrying shopping bags, talking on phones, rushing to buses and taxis. Nobody seemed to have time for anyone else. But in the middle of all this noise, a little girl stood alone near a park bench. Her small hands clutched the straps of her backpack, and her big brown eyes kept looking around nervously. She looked too young to be by herself. A man walking by noticed her. Something about the way she stood there made him slow down. He had seen lost kids before in malls or parks, but usually someone helped them quickly. This time, everyone just walked past like she was invisible. He stopped a few feet away so he wouldn't scare her. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. The girl looked up, hesitant at first, then shook her head. I can't find my mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. The man felt a twist in his chest. He didn't know this child, didn't know her story, but he knew one thing: he couldn't leave her here alone. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Don't worry," he said softly. "We'll find her, I promise." She nodded slowly, holding back tears. He asked her name, but she only gave her first name. He didn't push for more. She was scared enough already. He offered her his hand. She looked at it for a second before finally slipping her tiny hand into his. It was cold. They started walking together. He asked where she last saw her mother. The girl pointed toward the shopping mall across the street. Maybe she had wandered out. Maybe she got separated inside. It happened all the time. He told her they would go there first. Inside the mall, the noise was louder. People laughed in the food court. Kids played near the fountain. Music came from different stores, but the girl stayed quiet. Her eyes searched every face they passed, hoping to spot someone familiar. They stopped at the information desk. The man explained to the security guard that the child was lost. The guard nodded and spoke into his walkie-talkie, describing the girl. "We'll make an announcement," he said. The man looked at the girl. "Do you want to sit here and wait?" She shook her head quickly. "I want to look for her," she said, her small voice firm. So they walked through the mall together, checking every corner, every shop. The man asked if she remembered her mom's phone number, but she didn't. Too young. She told him she liked pancakes, that she had a cat at home, and that her mom worked a lot, but always hugged her before bed. He smiled at that. Kids had a way of saying things that hit your heart in unexpected ways. After half an hour, there was still no sign of the mother. He bought the girl a bottle of water from a vending machine. She took it with a small thank you, her voice barely above a whisper. The man kept telling her it would be okay, even though he was starting to wonder where the mother could be. Maybe she was looking for her in another part of the city. Maybe she had called the police already. As they walked out of the mall to check the street again, the man didn't notice the small crowd watching them from a distance. Some people probably wondered if he was the father. Others simply watched and said nothing. The sun was starting to set, painting the buildings in soft orange light. The girl held his hand tighter now. She was tired. He told her they would go to the police station next if they didn't find her mother soon. But what neither of them knew was that far away, in a tall glass building, a woman was ending a meeting when her phone lit up with dozens of missed calls. The color drained from her face as she read the words, "Your daughter is missing." She was no ordinary woman. She was one of the most powerful CEOs in the city. And at that moment, she didn't care about meetings or deals or headlines. All she cared about was her little girl. The man, meanwhile, only knew that a scared child needed help. He didn't care about rewards or recognition. He just wanted to make sure she got home safe, and this was only the beginning. The man and the little girl stepped out of the mall and into the cooling evening air. The streets were getting busier as people hurried home from work. Lights flickered on in shops, cars honked in the distance, and a gentle breeze carried the smell of roasted peanuts from a nearby vendor. The girl's small hand stayed tightly wrapped around his. She was quiet now, her eyes scanning every face they passed, hoping to find the one person she needed most. The man could feel her fear even though she didn't say much. He decided to keep talking to her, hoping it would calm her down. "Tell me about your cat," he said softly as they walked. Her face brightened a little. "Her name is Snowy. She sleeps on my bed," the girl said, her voice trembling but carrying a trace of pride. He smiled. "White fur," she nodded quickly. "All white. She gets scared of loud noises like me." The man's chest tightened. He didn't know this child, yet she felt so small, so fragile in that moment. They passed a row of shops, stopping now and then to ask if anyone had seen a woman looking for a child. Some people shrugged, some shook their heads, some didn't even look up from their phones. The man felt frustration rising inside him. How could so many people see a scared little girl and just keep walking? After a while, he led her into a small cafe. The warm lights inside made the place feel safe. He bought her a cup of hot chocolate, figuring it might help her relax while he asked the staff if anyone had reported a missing child that no one had. The girl sat on a chair, her little legs swinging above the floor as she sipped her drink. She kept glancing at the door like she expected her mother to burst in any second. The man sat across from her. "We'll go to the police next," he told her. "They'll know what to do." She nodded but didn't say anything. Her hands were wrapped so tightly around the cup that he could see her knuckles turning pale dot as they finished the drink. He called over a waiter. "Hey, can you check with the security cameras outside? Maybe her mom came this way." The waiter promised to check, but after a few minutes, he returned shaking his head. "Nothing." The man took the girl's hand again. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's try the police station. It's not far." They stepped out into the night. The streets looked different now. Brighter lights, louder traffic, more people moving quickly like the city had grown impatient. The girl walked silently beside him, her small backpack bouncing slightly with each step. He noticed she kept looking at every woman they passed, hope flickering in her eyes each time, only to fade when it wasn't her mother. It broke his heart a little. On the way, he tried to make her smile. He told her about the time he got lost as a kid in a marketplace, and how his father found him eating candy from a stranger who didn't even speak the same language. The girl gave a tiny laugh, just a tiny one. But it was enough to make him feel better. That they finally reached the small police station. It was brightly lit, with 2 officers sitting at a desk inside. The man explained the situation while the girl clung to his side. One officer nodded. "We'll make an announcement and alert other stations," he said. "Do you know her mother's name?" The man looked down at the girl. She whispered it softly. The officer's eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing. He just picked up the phone and started dialing numbers quickly. The man didn't notice. He was more focused on keeping the girl calm. He told her they were safe now, that the police would help, that it wouldn't be long before she saw her mom. But somewhere deep inside, he was starting to wonder. Why did the officer react like that? Was there something about the mother he didn't know? The girl leaned against him, tired now, her eyes half closed. She had been through so much for someone so young. The man didn't ask questions. He just stayed beside her, waiting, not knowing that this night was about to take a turn he never expected. While the man and the little girl waited inside the police station, the city outside kept moving like nothing had changed. Cars rushed through the streets, neon signs glowed above shops, and office buildings were slowly going dark as workers went home. But high up in one of the tallest towers, the woman who was searching for her child was anything but calm. She was in the middle of a board meeting when her assistant ran in, pale-faced, holding her phone. She excused herself, thinking it was something small. But when she saw the message, "Your daughter is missing," her whole world tilted. For a moment she just stood there, frozen. People knew her as the woman who never panicked, the CEO who could close million-dollar deals without blinking. But in that moment, she wasn't a CEO. She wasn't powerful. She was just a mother who had lost the one thing that mattered more than anything else. She called her security team immediately. Her voice shook as she ordered them to lock down the mall, the parks, every place her child might be. She didn't care about meetings or the reporters waiting downstairs. The only thing she wanted was to find her daughter. Back at the police station, the little girl sat beside the man, her head resting against his arm. She looked so small under the bright lights, so quiet after hours of searching. He didn't know who her mother was or why the officers kept making calls in low voices. He only knew the girl needed someone to stay with her, so he stayed. One officer walked over with a cup of water for the girl. Another whispered something into his colleague's ear. The man noticed but didn't ask questions. He wasn't here for details. He was here because a child needed help. The girl looked up at him suddenly. "Do you think my mom is looking for me?" She asked softly, almost afraid of the answer. He nodded right away. "Of course," he said gently. "She's probably running all over the city right now. You'll see. She's going to find you soon." The girl didn't smile, but she held onto his sleeve like she wanted to believe him. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. The man kept her busy by asking about her school, her favorite games, what she wanted to be when she grew up. She told him she liked drawing, that she once won a prize for painting a big blue sky with a yellow house under it. He told her that sounded beautiful, and she should keep painting because the world needed more color. The officers kept moving in and out of the room. Each time the door opened, the girl looked up quickly, hoping to see her mother. But it was always another uniform, another stranger, another shaking head. Finally, a call came through. One of the officers answered, listened for a long moment, then looked over at the man and the girl. "She's on her way," he said softly. The girl's head shot up. "My mom?" The officer nodded with a small smile. "Yes, she's coming right now." The man felt relief wash over him. He didn't know why it had taken so long or why the police seemed extra serious about it, but he was glad it was almost over. While they waited, the man thought about how quickly life could change. He had only planned to stop at the mall for a few things before going home. But here he was, sitting in a police station with a lost child, waiting for her mother. Outside, black cars were already rushing through the streets toward the station. Inside one of them, the mother sat gripping her phone like it was the only thing keeping her together. She didn't speak. She didn't even blink as the car cut through traffic. She was known across the city as a woman who ran one of the largest companies in the country. But tonight, the world would see a different side of her. A side no headline had ever shown before, and the man waiting inside had no idea who was about to walk through that door. The little girl was sitting on the hard bench, her tiny legs swinging nervously, when the sound of heavy tires screeched outside the police station. She looked toward the door at the same moment the man did. The bright lights of the station reflected on the glass entrance, and for a few seconds, everything seemed to slow down. Then the doors flew open. A woman rushed in, her heels clicking sharply on the floor, her eyes searching the room with desperation written all over her face. Her hair was slightly messy, her face pale, her breathing fast. For someone so powerful, she looked nothing like the calm, composed businesswoman the newspapers loved to write about. Right now, she was only a mother who had been terrified for hours. The girl's eyes lit up instantly. "Mom!" she cried. Jumping off the bench, the woman ran forward, and in one motion, she scooped her daughter into her arms, holding her as tightly as she could. Her voice cracked as she kept whispering, I've got you, baby. Mommy's here." The man stood back quietly, watching the reunion. The fear, the relief, the tears, it was all there in that moment. He didn't want to interrupt. The girl clung to her mother's neck like she would never let go. For long seconds, they stayed like that, the mother trembling as though she was afraid her daughter might disappear again if she loosened her hold. When she finally pulled back a little, she checked the girl from head to toe, touching her face, her arms, making sure she was okay. The girl nodded softly, whispering, "I was scared, Mommy." The woman kissed her head over and over. "I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have." Her voice broke, and she held the child close again, unable to finish. Man shifted slightly, ready to leave. His job was done. The girl was safe, her mother was here, and he didn't need to stay any longer. He didn't want thanks or attention. He had only done what he hoped someone would do if it had been his child. But before he could turn to go, the mother finally looked at him. Their eyes met, and for a moment, she just stared at him. Maybe she was trying to find words big enough for what she felt. Gratitude was too small a word. "Were you the one who stayed with her?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. The man nodded. "She was alone. I couldn't just walk away." She took a step toward him, her daughter still in her arms. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You have no idea what this means to me." He shrugged lightly, as if it was nothing. Any parent would have done the same. "But—" She shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "Not everyone would have cared enough. Not everyone would have stayed this long, taken her to the police, kept her safe. You did." The man didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to this much attention. He had only done what felt right. Outside, cameras had already started flashing. Reporters had gathered when they learned who the missing child belonged to. The mother's name was already spreading across the news channels, but the man didn't know any of this. To him, she was just a worried mother, not the famous CEO people whispered about. As the officers cleared the crowd outside, the mother turned back to him. "Please, don't leave yet. I want to thank you properly," she said. He gave a small nod, unsure what she meant. The girl looked at him from her mother's shoulder. "He helped me, Mommy. He bought me hot chocolate," she said softly, like she was sharing a big secret. The woman's lips curved into the smallest smile through her tears. She hugged her daughter again before turning back to the man. "Stay," she said softly. "Please." And for the first time that evening, the man realized there was more to come, something he never expected when he first stopped to help a lost little girl on a busy street. The little girl clung to her mother's neck as though she would never let go again. Her tiny fingers twisted into the fabric of her mother's jacket, as if afraid someone might try to take her away again. The mother kissed her head over and over, whispering words only a parent could say in such a moment, soft, trembling words full of love and relief. The man stood a few steps back, watching quietly. He didn't want to intrude. His job was done. The girl was safe. He was ready to leave and slip back into his ordinary life, like this had been just another day. But the mother turned toward him again. She walked closer, her daughter still in her arms, her eyes glistening. "You stayed with her all this time?" she asked softly, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes," he said simply. "She was scared. I couldn't just leave her alone." The woman swallowed hard. For a second, she looked like she didn't know how to speak. She was used to boardrooms, big speeches, making decisions that shaped companies. But now words didn't seem big enough for what she felt. Most people would have just called the police and walked away, she said quietly. "But you stayed with her. You searched for me. You kept her safe until I got here. I can never thank you enough." The man gave a small shrug, like it wasn't a big deal. Anyone would have done the same. But the woman shook her head firmly. "No," she said softly. "Not everyone would have cared enough." Reporters were still outside, flashing cameras, calling her name. She ignored them. For once, she didn't care about the headlines or what people would say. She looked back at the man. "Do you even know who I am?" she asked after a pause. He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, I just knew she needed help." Something softened in her expression, like his answer touched her in a way she hadn't expected. "I run one of the largest companies in this city," she said quietly. "People talk about me like I'm untouchable, but tonight, I was just a mother terrified for her child. And you were there when she needed someone the most." The man stayed silent, unsure what to say. He didn't care about titles or companies. He only cared that the little girl was safe. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small card. "This is my number," she said, handing it to him. "Please call me. I want to do something for you, anything." He shook his head lightly. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what was right." But she pressed the card into his hand. "Anyway, at least keep it," she said softly. "Because people like you, people who still stop to help a child when everyone else walks by, the world needs more of you." The man slipped the card into his pocket, not sure what else to say. The mother held her daughter close again, whispering softly to her. The girl leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, looking tired but finally calmed. As the man turned to leave, the mother called out to him one last time. "What's your name?" He told her. She repeated it slowly, like she wanted to remember it. "I'll be in touch," she said softly. He nodded and walked out of the police station into the cool night air. The city lights glowed around him as he headed home, unaware of how much his life was about to change. Because 2 days later, his phone rang. It was her. She didn't just want to thank him again. She wanted to offer him a position at her company, a job he had never even dreamed. "OF," she said, someone with his heart, someone who didn't look at the world only through money or power, was someone she wanted on her team. The man stood there, holding the phone, speechless. He had expected nothing when he stopped to help a little girl that evening. But sometimes, life gives back in ways you never see coming, and all it took was one small act of kindness.